All right, so let's take a look at each of these pieces, and I'll try to color code them. So let's take a look at that one first. So I'm going to call that the first piece, and I'm going to write that in y equals form, so it looks more familiar to us. So we're going to graph y is equal to 4, okay? But notice the domain piece says x is less than or equal to -1. So if you want, you can come to -1, just dash in a vertical line there. And then this piece, y is equal to 4, is going to be over in this region everywhere where x is less than or equal to -1. So let's go ahead and graph y is equal to 4. That's just a horizontal line. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that. Normally this would stretch all the way across our graph. Oh, I missed a little bit there. That should be a little bit better. But I'm only going to graph it to the left of -1 because it says x has to be less than or equal to -1. And also, because of the less than or equal to sign, I'm going to put a solid dot right there. Okay, because we want that point. It's good for an x value of -1. So we're going to put a solid dot. So that ends that piece. The second piece, we're going to look at this one. I'll do it in a different color. I'm having trouble drawing a straight line, but we'll get through it. Well, I will, I guess. All right, so there's piece number 2. Again, I'm just going to write it as y is equal to 4 minus x squared. Now, because this is a quadratic, it's going to be a parabola. You may know that because of the negative in front of the x squared, that it opens down. So there's going to be a piece in here that looks like a parabola that has a maximum and opens down. If you don't know how to graph this, just by looking at the equation, and you will in another couple of units, we're going to take a look at those and you'll be able to do it. But for now, we're kind of forced to make a table. Okay, so I'll just do that right here. Here's your x and your y. I can't seem to put an x right there. There we go. Okay, now notice it says from -1 to 2. So that's our domain piece. So that tells us that we only need the numbers from -1 to 2. Okay, so I'm only going to put in -1, 0, 1, and 2. And then we're going to have to calculate what those values are for this. So I'm not going to show my work right here, but if you just take -1, plug it in for x squared, -1 squared is 1, and then 4 minus 1 is going to be a 3. So just verifying, you can use your calculator if you like as well to get that 3. Some of you may know how to put this in your graphing calculator and hit the table button and get a table, and that would produce the same table. Just only show the values from -1 to 2 in the domain. Okay, for 0 should be easy. It just wipes this whole thing out and you're just left with 4. With 1, it's going to be 1 squared, which is 1, and then 4 minus 1 also gives us a 3, just like -1 did. And then by plugging in a 2, 2 squared is 4, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So you should be able to verify that those are the correct table values. Okay, so let's plot those. But when I go to plot it, notice here it says from -1 to 2. -1, the sign right here, does not have an or equal sign. It's just less than. So we don't want that value right here. Even though we plot -1, 3, I'm going to make that the open circle. That way it'll be underneath the solid dot that's right here. And it will, the graph when we're done, will still pass the vertical line test. So let's graph this. So -1, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to put an open dot here as best I can. 0, 4, 1, 3, and 2, 0. And that's going to be a solid dot because it says x less than or equal to 2. And then again, we're just going to connect this with a smooth curve. If you need to graph a parabola or any other curve, don't connect it with straight lines. Try to make this as smooth as you can. I'll do my best on this one. if I was on paper, I'd probably do a little bit better job. And that doesn't look that great, but it's the best I can do on this little pad thing. Okay, maybe right about through here. I don't want to mess it up too much. Okay, so there's that piece. Open dot here, solid dot here. This dot and the open dot still pass the vertical line test because it passes through here and not there. Okay, the last piece, let's change the color. So we're just going to look at this last piece. There we go. Call that piece 3. Let's rewrite that. All right, let me go back real quick. I didn't up here. Some of you might like to see this up top. So because it goes from -1 to 2, I'm just going to put that y is equal to 4 minus x squared up top, just to show that this is the piece that's in the middle. Okay, and then, here's this vertical line at 2, right here. All right, this green is not showing up that great. Okay, because it goes from -1 to 2, -1 to 2, and it's in between those two x values. For this blue piece, the third final piece, it says that x is bigger than 2, so that's going to be bigger than 2, so it's going to be over on this side. And then we should be able to graph that. It has a y-intercept of 0, -6. There's the point there. It has a slope of 2. Okay, and we should be able to graph that pretty quick. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I'm just putting a kind of a small dot there because I'm only graphing over here, but because the y-intercept is here, I'm just going to put some points here, but I'm only really going to darken over here. If you watch where my the cursor is scrolling over here, this is the only part that I'm actually going to want eventually. So I put this here, and then use the slope of 2. I'm going to go over 1 up 2 and just put a little tiny dot, over 1 up 2, over 1 up 2, and I'm going to continue using a slope of 2. Okay, and then I'm going to fill my graph. Now, even though I put these dots in here, I'm not going to color that because we only want values greater than 2, which is over here. So we need an open dot right there. Actually, that dot should be open. And then I'm just going to draw the best line I can, as straight as I can, up through those points. Now, sometimes when I'm doing this, I pencil in some of these dots and I accidentally, or not accidentally, but draw this line in very lightly, and then usually I just come back and erase that. Let's see what I can do. Just kind of get rid of that. Where's my eraser? So that wasn't actually an eraser, but I'm trying to just make that as little dots go away. Which just leaves the blue line here. And double check again, once you're done, each piece should be in its own region, and there should be no pieces that are directly above and below each other. So notice the red piece is to the left, the green piece is in the middle, blue piece is here, but this is definitely an open circle and should not have that dot in the middle. Just going to remove that a little bit. Okay, and then we're done. It passes the vertical line test, and we're done with this problem.